Good day, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our day 5, or rather day 4, part of our GMES and Africa training for capacity building on the utilization and application of EO data. In today's presentation, or in today's talk that we're going to discuss, we shall basically be looking at analysis workflows and functionalities of the eStation or the GMES eStation application program. So in a couple of days, day 1, we did the installation of the locally host eStation software, which you basically use within your computer. And all you need is to successfully install the software. And after installing the software, you should be able to now have ability to load the data, the Earth observation data, which comes in different product categories, into your software. And after successfully doing that, then you will be able to have the software running in your computer, and then you can be able to do analysis locally with no need for internet connection per se. However, we still have a challenge that most of us in this training have not managed to have all their data sets located in one, all the data sets located in their computer or in their PC or laptop. And that poses a challenge for them to be able to run the analysis successfully. However, during the program, an online version of the eStation has already been deployed, and users can be able to have access to this online platform, and they can be able to perform the analysis at the same time. Of course, the need or the challenge here is that one has to have an internet connection to be able to access the online platform. However, the benefit with the online platform is that all the data sets are up to date, but also you'll be able to access data sets for all the regions, or rather all the thematic regions in the continent, including those in the ocean islands. So that's the beauty. So it allows all the community, those in Africa continent, in all in general, to be able to run the analysis at any time, but also for any location. The benefit it comes with that is that also all the data sets that you need to be able to perform the analysis is all provided at the same time. So those are the benefits that we have when we are using the online eStation application platform. And in this day 4, this is what I will be able to introduce to you, all our participants, so that you can be able to appreciate, but also be able to utilize this system moving forward. We request, as the organizers of this training, that you share this platform. You reach out to many people so that they can be able to use this platform. And as we mentioned, that the purpose of the capacity building at GMES and Africa is to enrich the users, to enrich the population, to enrich the decision makers with tools or products that can enhance a better decision making in conserving nature and also protecting it, but also at the same time, sustainable use of it. SDG goals is one of the priorities that also GMES and Africa program is tending to achieve, so that we all have the same global village, but also we make decisions for our nations, for our country, for our work, daily work needs, based on assured data, or based on facts, not based on speculation, as it might be happening in some other parts of the continent. So my name is Thomas Enoro, and I've already introduced this myself to you. And under this program, I work as the training assistant, but also at the university, I'm a graduate research assistant doing EO, remote sensing, Earth observation, and so many things in that line. My interest is to look at how to conserve nature in terms of the biodiversity using the updated tools and also approaches, as you probably notice as I talk further. So just going to put my presentation in this mode so that we can be able to start on. So in the presentation, you'll be able to see different components, and the first one will be, we shall look at the registration. How do you register and successively log into the system, which I've already mentioned that we have already the GMES eStation online analysis application, which users can be able to access. So how do you register and how do you log in? Now, I'll also try to enlighten you on the benefits of registering to this online platform. What benefits do you, or what benefits can one get if they register to the system? And then also we'll look at how to create, customize, and save a map. So the map is the spatial aspect of the Earth observation analysis. You can be able to visualize different section or different parts of the country or the protected area or a natural habitat of choice, be looking at a map. So the map brings in the spatial analysis using your visual clue to be able to make a decision based on what you see and based on the colors and you know, all these aspects of making a map we shall be able to look at in today's presentation. Also, how to generate a new legend, how to use already existing legend, and how you can probably modify legend. We shall also focus on that in this presentation. Also, we'll look at the layers. How do you work with layers? Basically, how do you use the layers that are already existing into the platform? But also, it gives you an ability to be able to upload your own layer into the system so that you can be able to use it for your personal or precise analysis for your study area. And then we shall look at how to create, customize, and save a graph. We shall also focus on that. And finally, finalize the presentation by looking at workspaces. What are workspaces? Why do we have to have a workspace? How do we create it? How do we save it? And sometimes we shall say that you can export your workspace and restore it later, or share it with your colleagues so that they can be able to use it at a later stage. So that's the content of our presentation for this day 4 part of the training. So as usual, the first thing we need to do is to log into register to the eStation application. This is the link where you can be able to access this platform. And then after logging in, it will be able to allow you after registering, you'll be able to log in, and then we'll be able to see how the different things happen. Of course, you'll be redirected. This eStation is being hosted at JRC in the EU, one of the EU European Union platforms or companies that was tasked to develop this system, and they're the developers, and it's being hosted there. And we shall be able to create an account, log into that. But what is very important that it will, as you'll be able to see, when you're clicking in, it will take you to the EU credential management system, and we'll just do that in a second. I'll just get out of the presentation mode, click Control, and click on the link to the eStation platform. So when it opens, there's always a default workspace that opens. So I just need to get rid of this and start from a clean slate. There's also one trick here that you can click on this section of icon, and then there's a very small arrow here, which you can click on to expand your workspace. And you'll just be able to see that shortly right now. So you see, when you do that, you'll have more working area or interface in your computer. So the first thing is you click on to register. Now, when you click on registering, if you don't have the credentials and you want to register for the first time, you'll come to this section whereby it will allow you, it will ask you to enter your information. And then after entering your information, you should be able now to have an opportunity to log in. So please go ahead and fill in those details, your details, including the full name, the username. The username is normally one word in small caps, in small caps. That allows you to be able to use the eStation at a later stage. But your email address is very, very important, and fill in the other information and your password. So the password is very important, that you have a symbol, either one or two symbols. You can either use a pound sign, you can use an @ you can use underscore, you can use a dash. All those symbols can be able to work into the system. 2, you must have a word, and this word should have about 6 characters and above. And what I mean is this word should be having more than 6 letters. So, and that word should have a capital letter in there. So it can start with a capital letter, or a capital letter in the middle, or a capital letter at the end, depending on what you feel or what you choose that is workable for you. Select that. And then the last part of the password, you should have numbers. So you can have, for example, 2024 for 2024, you can have 20, maybe 2020, 2000, or anything that you feel you're comfortable using as the numbers. So these numbers should be also added in that word. And if you make that as one word, remember a symbol, a word, one word with capital letter in it, and small letters, just one capital letter and small letters, and then numbers in addition. So I've already created my account, so I'll simply just log in into the platform. I'll just enter my credentials, and then I'll click on sign in. So as you can see, it's redirecting and proving whether I am a user or I have an account with the system already. So then it brings me here. So when it brings you here, sometimes it becomes hard for you to go back. So you just simply leave it open the way it is. Okay. And then you go back to the presentation again, and then click on this link so that it can be able now to open the station. And remember, this is still on, so it will simply open this interface, which I'll just get rid of the default workspace here. And then all you do is click to log in. So when you click on logging in, now it's going to pick the information. Since this one is still open, it's going to pick the information, and then you can now, after logging in, you'll be able now to see your name here. Just keep bringing this. So I'll just get rid of it. So it will bring your name here, your full name, and saying hello, something like that, so that you will be able to know that, okay, you've successfully logged in. Also, if I log out, just a second. Now, when you're not logged in, you'll see that you see very few properties or very few tools. that you can work with. For example, you can see you only have new map and new graph. You don't have other things. But now just watch if you've logged in and see what happens. So when you've logged in, you'll be able to see more than just one item. You'll actually be able to see extra items that is open here. So this is a default workspace. I think I've told it to open by default. So I want to just get rid of this default opening so that next time I don't have to suffer this same issue again. I just need to have a clean workspace here. So when you've logged in addition to what you were seeing earlier, you'll be able to see a couple of things. Now you can be able to see my map or maps, and then you can also be able to see my graph, layers, and save as icons available for you. But if you've not logged in, then you cannot be able to see that. In addition to the reference workspace and default workspace, you'll also be able to have what we call my workspace icon or section added after logging in. So that's the beauty of logging in. If you're not logged in, you can't be able to access those components in your platform. Okay. So as far as the presentation is concerned, we went and registered to the platform. It redirected us to the EU login credential platform, and then redirected us when we were logging in, and we successfully logged in. So as I mentioned, the benefit of logging in is that you can be able to create, save, and open a workspace, but also you can be able to save a map, a graph, and also perform other settings as far as this is concerned. So let's look at the maps. These are interactive views of our window on the GMES and Africa eStation platform. And a map allows one to view products with the selected pellets if you apply to them. And also you can be able to see the product timeline. So let's do that. So to add a map, first you click on new map. And I'm going to just make this come into the middle so that we can be able to see it clearly. Just going to push this here. All right. So to make a map, the first thing you do is to add a layer, a vector layer in this case. So you click on open a vector layer, and I'm going to use a couple of vector layers. So under the border layer categories, you have Africa, you have some regions. AU is African Union regions. So we have the Central, East, North, South, and West. And then also we have the Western, the agreement. So then we have the MESA regions. The MESA regions, remember, Dr. Weiss made a big presentation, a long presentation on the GMES and Africa program, and which program initially were there. And as he mentioned, GMES and Africa program is a succession of the MESA program. So the system is still using the MESA program because that's when the eStation was developed during that program. So we have the MESA program, regions, and we have agreement. We have the CISCOs, we have the BDMS, we have the ICPAC, IGAD, the MOI, and University of Ghana regions. And these are vector layers that are under the border layer categories. And if you go further, so simply, how do you access that? You simply put a cursor or a pointer on the vector layers, and then you move it to the right without even clicking. And then if you want to see further what is the content of each of these border layer categories, you basically move a cursor towards the right screen, the right part of your screen. So all of this, if you move a cursor on them, you'll be able to see the content of what is composed in each of those. So in this case, we just going to work with Africa as this is Africa area, which is the continent back border admin boundary. But also we have the countries, which is the level 0. And then moving further, you have, let's say, the districts or the regions for each of the country. And then you have also this content. So you can click on each of them to view what it brings, and you'll be able to understand based on your country what each level means. So I'll first just start with Africa area, which is the continental border. So to add it to the map, you make sure you click or you check this box. So when you check on it, you give it a few seconds, and then it's going to open, or it's going to be added to your map. So beautiful. This has added to our map, and I'm going to push it just a little bit so that it's centered in the map view. This is my current map view. You can always, reduce or expand it according to the way you want it to be done. And as you can see, as I move my cursor, the eastings and northings, or rather the latitudes and the longitude coordinates, keep moving based on the area that I am putting my cursor in. So we have learned how to add a vector file, and there are more of them under marine categories. You'll also see a couple of them here. And then there are other layers, which you'll also see a couple of them. What is also important is that we have the natural habitat layer. And since our training is really focusing on natural habitat, you may take a keen interest on working with these layers, because we can work with protected areas, or we can work with the updated protected area data for 2017. So you can also do that. But also we have something interesting here. For those who do things on watersheds, we have basins of Africa, continent level 1, 2, and 3. So you can also, for those who are working in a watershed area, you want to monitor wetlands, you want to monitor all those. So we have data sets on hydrosheds, which you can be able to use for your study purpose. Also, we have the user defined. So the user defined, where people who have admin rights into the system, you can be able to add these layers which into the system, and you can be able to use it here. Okay, so there are a couple of things, layers that were added by a gentleman called Massimo Martini. I don't know if it's a gentleman or a lady, but yeah, those are some of the layers that you can save, and I'm going to show you how to do that on a later stage. So now we have added a vector layer, and also we have tried to explore which other layers are available into the system. So that's great. Next is we want to add the Earth observation data product. So as we saw, using the eStation online offline version or the local host, you have a couple of product categories that comes with the eStation, and then we have the sub products, and we are going to do that. So to add a product, you click on the products button, and then you will see the categories here. And this is a vegetation category product, rainfall category product, fire, inland water, oceanography, and the miscellaneous. But as you know, that for each of the category, there are products inside. So when you click on the vegetation category, you will be able to access the products that are within that category in here. And each of them also have sub-products within them. So that is so you'll see that it has about 14 products, for the rainfall category, there are about 6 products, and this is the list of those 6 products. For oceanography, there are 8 products, and these are the products that are there. In the miscellaneous categories, also there are products that are embedded inside there. So to expand, to view or access a product in a category, you basically click on this plus sign here next to the category name, and then you'll be able to expand and obtain this rather the categories. Now, to access the subcategory, you click on that particular category. For example, I want to click on GRC mass, and then I can be able to obtain, first of all, you get what we call a map set. Then when you click on a map set, then you will see the subcategories inside this one. So maybe for this GRC MARS, WSI has only 2 subcategories, but we can also look at the MODIS FAPA. So the MODIS FAPA has more categories. So it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 subcategories. So also, yeah, so that is that. Also, if you look at the Sentinel-3, you'll also see that it has its own subcategory. There's only 1 category for Sentinel-3, NDVI, then dry matter productivity, FCABA, and leaf area index for that. Okay, so those are the subcategories and how you can be able to access them. So for our making of the map, we simply need to use one of these categories, and I'm going to just start with the MODIS NDVI. So NDVI, you can have it at a global scale or at a continental scale. So since I just want to work with, since I'm in Africa and I'm going to work with Africa data, I've already added the admin boundary of the continent, so I'll just work with this one. And the product that I want to add first is the NDVI 10 days. So 10 days is a combination or an additional sum of 10 days of each day. So MODIS come in as daily data, so can be able to have that. And then when I click on OK, my product gets added onto the map. So when my product gets added into the map, now I can be able to visualize it. And also I have a couple of tools within the map that can allow me visualize the content of the map. And I'm going to take you through that step by step. I'll start with the timeline. Timeline, remember you've added a 10-day data. So it means you have 10 days data into the system. So as you'll probably see now, the data that I've added has by default is running from April 2022 up to April 2023. And remember, I have some zoom levels here. So if I have 1 year zoom level, then I have that. If I have 6 months, as you can see, it runs differently. So now I have 6 months. And then if I have 3 months, that is that. 2 months, that is that, and so forth. So as you're clicking on each of these zoom levels, you'll be able to see that these green squares are the ones that are being specified as per this particular zoom levels. So if you put 1 year, then you'll have the data running every year. If you have 6 months and so forth, yeah? So for example, I need to know which data am I visualizing right now. So for you to do that, you simply need to come here and activate this tool. So this tool will activate a couple of things. First, it will show you the timeline, the period of the data that you're viewing, as you can see up here. But also it will introduce certain components or certain objects In this case, it has brought in a logo. It has brought in a logo, but also it has brought in a section or a window which allows you to add a disclaimer. Of course, by default, I have my my legend. So in other words, the data that I'm visualizing is of April 11th, 2023. So I could also come here and click on 1st of May 2022, and then I'll be able to see or visualize the data for that period. As you can see, the date here has changed to that particular period. Now, we are seeing data up to 2022. We could go, so this is a MODIS data, and MODIS data starts from year 2000, and most of them start from year 2000, but certain products start in 2022, in rather 2002, and in Feb. So how do I do that? So there are some, there's a scroll date period bar here, which you can click on, the one on the extreme left. Then when you click on it, you can be able to drag to your timestamp for the whole length. So when you do that, then all the data sets are going to be shown for the whole period of time. So what you do is you'll be able to see that up here, your data has actually refreshed, your timeline has refreshed to show the available data based on what you've, the timeline, the drag on the timeline that you've done. And here, you can be able now to see that you don't have any zoom level in this case. Okay, don't have any zoom level activated up here, so you're only looking at the whole time series. And yes, because you're looking at the whole length of time series, the squares have turned from green to blue. So it means if you want to keep navigating step by step, you move your cursor from each square and you can be able to see and visualize the map or the spatial distribution of the product in that particular year. So let's say I want in 1st April 2007, I can click on that. Okay, I'm trying to click on it, but I can't see it come through. Okay, so probably because the maps are, the icons of the squares have turned blue, so you cannot, they're not activated. So if you want to do that, then you can simply click on either that, or you can click on these zoom levels, and then you can be able to change. You can also move this cursor, basically showing every year in this case. So you can click on 2001. And you can visualize data for October 2001, and so many things, as you probably be able to see. So you can scroll here. So what I'm doing is I'm pointing at in the middle of this. So first of all, you can say, I want it to be in 6 months. As you can see, this section gets squeezed. If you put 1 year, it opens up to show you that that is for 1 year product. So you can keep moving it here, and then you'll see that every year as you're moving towards the right, it keeps changing as you're tending towards that. So you'll explore this timeline, or the timeline of the data in the lower part of the map screen to be able to examine and understand how different things are operating. But also here, you can be able to play. Okay, you can be able to play the animation of the data. So simply what I do is I click on this, and it will start performing animation to show the data for each time period. Of course, the speed is quite too high, so maybe it's running too fast and I can't be able to see visualize the map as it loads through. But basically, if you have the time, you can be able to do that. You can be able to play, or you can play and stop, and then you can be able to visualize data for that particular period. Since I'm looking at data for the whole continent, it takes some time to load. But maybe if you're looking at data for a smaller area, let's say we zoom to some southern part here, just a very smaller area, and I play this. Maybe to load faster, as you can see. So that is for that particular period. That is for that particular period. So if you have the admin boundary for your study area, it's normally smaller. So you can be able to play this animation. And if you have something that records the animation, you can change your animation into a GIF. And this can be very helpful for your presentation in this case. So I'll just stop this animation process and then just zoom back to my map again, to the whole continent, so that I can be able to visualize it the way it is. Now, the other thing so we have learned how to navigate through the timeline of the data. And then also we have learned how to activate the timeline window here, which allows you to visualize the time period of your data, and also activating these objects and so forth. I'll also try to show you how you can mask off the data. So right now we have data that is covering also this upper part of in the upper part, which is now in another continent altogether in Europe. So we can only mask out only data that is falling within the boundary of the continent. And the tool that you use is this one. So when you click on it, or when you activate it, it will only clip the data to your study area, your particular area of interest, as you'll probably see what I've done. So we'll move another step. Now we have one map. So we want to create another map and try to learn other components of the map. So I'll go to a new map. And in this case, I also want the continent of Africa. I'll move this map on my right-hand side of the screen, and I'll expand it to make sure that it's also having the same size as the one that I've been dealing with earlier. And now I add a product. I'll also go with the MODIS vegetation, but this time the sub-product that I want is the anomaly, or the Z-score of product of MODIS. So I click on OK. So this one is showing the deviation from the 10-day data, how it is deviating from the average, the long-term average in this case. So you'll see that the color is a bit different. And when you focus your eye onto the legend, so NDVI runs from 0, or rather -1 to +1 in terms of its scale, but the Z-score is running from -4 up to +4. So it's a deviation from the 10-day data. How the 10-day averages of the data is deviated from the long-term mean. So how is that calculated? So simply that's calculated by looking at the cumulative sum of NDVI from year 2000 up to 2024 or 2023. So it looks at that sum, and then it starts calculating how much is deviating from. So how 2020, or rather 2000, is deviating from that total overall average. Yes, the total average the what? Of the NDVI values. So we're looking at the anomaly data, or the deviation from the normal, or the deviation from the long-term average of NDVI. And what we can do here is that we can be able to link this map and this one together. So the tool that links them is this one. Right now, they're already linked up by default. As you'll probably see, when I move one, the other one also moves, okay? But in some cases, you might find that yours is unlinked. So how do you link that? So the way to link it is to need to first click on this and then mask it. Okay. So you see that as right now, as I'm moving this one, the one on the left is not moving. It's because they're not linked. And for you to see that they are not linked, you'll see this this icon showing that it's something broken. Okay. So when it turns from red to that grayish color and showing you that they are linked, now these two maps are linked. So as you zoom in one, the other one also gets zoomed in. Okay. So we want to move a little further and deactivate the admin boundary of the whole continent and now bring in the country. Deactivate this one and then check on this one on. So let me give it a few seconds to load up. So I'm loading the country admin boundaries for Africa. And through this, you can be able to, you can also be able to mask. So for example, if I click on this, I can now be able to mask only for that country, okay? And if I click on another one, it will be able to mask for those particular countries. If you want to disable this masking aspect, you only click here and then everything will be shown according to the coverage of the data set that you have in your system. So that's masking out. That is also linking the two map windows. So you can even have 4 or 5 map windows, or 6 or even 10, depending on the size of your screen. If your screen is large enough, then you can have more content. As you can see, I don't have a logo object here, so I need to activate it. I also don't have the timeline window here, so I can activate them by clicking on this, and then the logos will come, and then I can just simply reposition them. Okay. So that is about working with the maps. Next, I want to show how do you export a map. Okay, if you have the map that you've created, how do you export it to use it in a document? So normally when you start the system, there is a zoom level that is shown. So for example, if I export this map, you simply click on the PNG, and then under your download icon, you'll be able to see that the map has downloaded. But as you can see, it's still bringing the logo in the middle before I pushed it down, and a number of things are still squeezed together. So what you do is you simply, let me try refreshing. I hope I'm not going to lose my workspace, the maps that I've created. Okay, so I needed to save my workspace so that I can be able to work with it the way that the system does. So I'll just add them quickly again. This is just a practice, which you'll be doing all the time, so you don't have to be shy about it. Add another map right here. So I needed to save my maps, and then I can be able to change the zoom levels and all that so that I can export it rightly. So start with the admin boundaries or the vector layer. And then I go to the product. Remember, I was working with this NDVI. Then also I can go with the NDVI, but this case, the Z or the anomaly data, because my windows are linked. So I can scroll and zoom out, but I can see the whole continent. Okay. So what we want to learn here is basically, what we want to learn here is how to save your map as a template, but also export your map after creating. So to export your map as a PNG, which you can insert in your document, you simply click here, then it will get exported. Also for this map, for this particular map, you simply click here, then it gets exported. So I'll just export this one. Maybe before I do that, I should activate my timeline window, and alternatively also these logos. And then if I click on export, now I can simply open my Word document. And this is something that you'll do in the exercise. So I'm trying to show you how do you play around with this. So you open your Word document. I want to also export this one. So in my Word document, I know where my exports are going. So I open a new, fresh new Word document. I go to insert pictures from this device. And under my downloads, I have my products that I've downloaded here. I select all of them and I insert them. Okay. So through this, I bring out the borders because it will come without a border. Okay. So I have my two exports here. And as you can see, you can be able to rearrange them and change them according to the way you want. So what you do is you simply wrap them as a square. And here also I wrap this as a square. And then I can probably change the size so that I put them side by side if I want to, or if that's not my interest, then I can also change that zoom level. Okay, so we completed this. So you can put things side by side and you can resize them, and depending on what kind of analysis you're trying to perform. So when they're side by side, you can add more of the maps, and then you can have them pointed. Sometimes I do crazy things. Sometimes I click here and then cover that. And I reposition everything the way I want it. So for example, I put it here. I put this here. And then I click here to close, rather here, to close the other elements that I don't want to see. I have the logo here. Okay, I close this. I close that by clicking on this map tool menu to close the map tools. Because I need these map tools, I need to just add this and then I close it up. So when I have something like this and I've arranged my items very well, okay, So when I do that, I can just simply use a snipping tool or any tool that I feel can work for me. So I can also do that. And I use a snipping tool. So snipping, it's not the best way of doing it, but also it works. So no worries. So new, I clip off the map with its component here. So sometimes if I'm not achieving the best out of the export, because sometimes configuring your export might take you some time. So I can just clip off my wrap it up. I wrap it as a square, and I can still have my map products, but a little bit more organized, as you probably see. And I go back here, I snip off. Of course, if you're doing very many maps, this might not be the best approach of doing things. You might have to do the export so that you do things quickly, and then all you need to do is to configure your interface very well, so that when you export an item, it comes out organized. I have somebody who texted me and said they're having challenges configuring the way things appear. So you could also alternatively use the snipping tool to snip off the data according to the extent that you want. So you'll see that this appears also the same way. So there's no magic. You can as well do it that way, and you'll have your things running. Yeah. All right. So that is about the maps. You can try to play around with it and see how best it works. Which one works and which one shows you a better output of the map as you may want. Also, you can save a map as a template. So I'll just save these maps. So I'll just leave it the way it is so that I can remember it. You can also modify the name. So to access the map tools, you click on this wheel, sort of a wheel, and then I save this template as well. Okay. So let's say by mistake or for some reason I can't continue with analysis. I want to continue with it tomorrow. When I come back, okay, it's more like I'm just refreshing the system. When I come back tomorrow and I need to still access my system, I will have to come here and go to, after logging in, my workspace will come, and then I click on my maps. So when I click on my maps, the maps that I saved yesterday or previously are going to be available here. So I click open, I go to my map, I click on open, and then I'll have my two maps that I developed last time available here. Okay, so you can simply do that, and you can be able to restore the maps that you saved earlier onto your system. So yeah, also the interface sometimes can misbehave. As you can see, when you zoom in, everything gets clogged together. So you can also try to play around with the zoom level of your browser to be able to have the best out of it. Also, sometimes you'll see that I want to access my timeline. The data may not be, for example, here I have an empty section. So all you do is you can refresh the data by clicking on it again from the timeline here if you want particular data for you to use in your analysis. So you can click the different timeline, and I want to just link my maps because yeah, something like that. So you can restore, you can save your maps as templates, and then for example, in QGIS project, you can do this. You can save your map and then restore it later as a project. So yeah. So perfect. So we've looked in depth about the maps, and we've learned different things about the map. So we'll go to the next step of the presentation again. So resuming to our presentation, we'll see that we looked at a couple of things. We added a map, looked at the product timeline, and then the next thing we did was to add vector data sets. And we have not yet done the drawing of geometry and masking of the data or the product to the geometry. We did that. So let me do the part that is for creating maybe a geometry. So we have this part of our map which doesn't have the admin boundary. It's in the northern part of Africa. So all we do is you click on draw geometry, and you need to, from this drop down, you can select which geometry you want. So in this case, I just want to use a box so that I can draw mine quickly. So the box will be able to draw that. Okay. If you want to remove what you've drawn, if you've done it by mistake, all you do is you come here, you put your cursor here, and then you click on reset. And then through that, you can also pick a different geometry that you want to draw. In this case, I just want to draw a polygon. Okay. So if I need so many sides or a different shape. So when you reach the last one, all you do is you simply click so that it will finish. If you feel like this is not a nice polygon and you want to change, you simply come here, you put your cursor on this icon, on the draw geometries icon, and then you click on refresh. So the tool is going to refresh and allow you to do another digitization. So that's how you add the geometries into your map. So we also looked at the mask, which we did. So all you do first, you simply come here, you select, I don't want to draw a geometry, so I click on the geometry tool to deactivate that. So if I want to mask my data to, in this case, Sudan, I click on it first. I click on the data first, and then I click on mask. I click on the data first to select the boundary, and I click on mask. So my data will be masked to that particular country. And since I've linked my maps, what I do this side by zooming in and out will also be available in the other hand. Perfect. So next is we also learned basically how to view the administrator title, disclaimer, logo objects, and that in the map. We'll learn more about them later again. How to save a map as a PNG, we did that, and how you add it to a map document for your report or presentation is also done. You can also add it to a PowerPoint. We also learned how to save a map as a template so that you can be able to open it. And we did that. We saved them, our maps, and then reopened them later, as I showed in the presentation earlier. So let's go to the legend. So as you saw, when I was adding my map products, I click on the category. And then when I open the category, I pick a map, a product rather. But when immediately I click on the product, it opens a map set, which allows me to access more sub products in that. And then before adding it, I need to select a particular legend. So that is what we are going to look at in our next chapter. So this is the process of assigning a legend or a color ramp to the map, depending on what is available. And we shall also learn how to copy an existing legend, how to edit a user-defined legend, how to create a totally new legend from scratch, how to generate legend classes, calculate the logarithmic values of an existing legend, and so forth. So we'll go through that quickly. All right, so I'll just start everything from scratch, and it allows us to learn a lot because you get to learn again what you've done earlier. So click to add a map. Just make this a bit larger so that it's visible for this purpose of the presentation. As usual, go to the border. This time, I don't want to go to the admin border. I want to pick a particular protected area in the country and try to see how the thing works through it. So I go to other layers here, and I go to natural habitat, and I pick this layer for wild database of protected areas. I give it a few minutes for it to open. Okay, so just to allow me know the countries very well, I can also add the admin boundary of the countries. Perfect. So then here I can be able to go to the particular country of interest. For this case, I'm going to work with one of the protected area in the country in the eastern part, which is the Elgon National Park. So simple. I'm simply going to add a product. This time I'm going to work with the rainfall data, and I want to basically work with CHAPS, and CHAPS is a global data. So I can pick the global data, and then I don't want for 10 days. I just want monthly to learn a couple of things here. So what we're trying to learn is how to assign a legend. So here you'll see that I opened the product, clicked on the map set to access sub-products. So then I picked a 1 month rainfall estimate from CHAPS. And then here, then the moment I click on a sub-product, it opens, if click on a sub-product, it will open the color scheme, which is our legend. So here I have a couple of options. I have the first legend is rainfall estimates, RFE, value over 1 month. It's from the United States Geological Survey. Then we have that one from the NOAA. And then we have that one from the GRC TAMSAT. And then we have anomaly. So anomaly is really for an anomaly data, but these are monthly data set, monthly cumulative average sums. So I don't have to pick the anomaly. So I can either work with the USGS, the NOAA, or the GRC, any of that. So I'll just work with the GRC. And when you finish that, and then you click on add a map, you will have assigned a legend to that map. Okay. Now, we can also click to look at multiple legends again. So you click on assign a legend, and you will see that you have a long list of legends. And this long list, you have to be careful which one you should work with, okay? For the first time, if if you're doing this, you may not need to figure out things from here. The system will pick the legends from here straight. So you'll be able to see available legend for the sub-product that you've picked here. But if you want to do more than that, then you can open the list of legends that are available in the system, and we shall learn how do you add a new one in case you want, or how can you edit the one that is already in the system. So you first make a copy of it. After copying it, then you can edit the content of that legend depending on what you want. So here, where is the rainfall legend? So you'll see that here is anomalies. These are burn area. This is chlorophyll. This is dry matter productivity. So those are vegetation data, DMP, evapotranspiration, ET, FAPA, F cover, fires. We have the KD 490 anomalies, leaf area index, LAI, LST, NDVI. Okay. So scrolling down, so we have now the RFE, which is a rainfall estimate. In this case, we have anomalies, and then you have the values, which is per month. So let's say the legend that I had the other side is not the best. So I can pick this one, for example. So to assign, I first click on it to select it. After selecting it, then I can assign a selected legend. So it's get added here, and then I can make sure that I click on the radio button of that particular legend that I want to assign. So I click on add. So what have I done? I have simply assigned a new legend to my data. I looked for it from the system. So maybe let me first, the map looks crowded. So let me disable the protected area data. Okay. So this is the legend that is showing the one monthly average, rather sum of rainfall over the whole of Africa. And to know which period of this data could be, you simply come here and activate the timeline window or display timeline window. The product timeline is down here. This is the window which displays the time of that product. And as you probably see, you will be able to have something like this. If you don't like that period, you can click on another year. Okay. And as I showed you earlier, you can still move the scale of your time to another period, maybe 1980s, and then you can click data from 1982 and so forth. So through this, you'll be able to see, so for example, if I zoom to Uganda and I play the timeline. So I'll have data. So let me select only Uganda and mask it. So I'll have my timeline display of rainfall estimates, the monthly data for all that period. And through this, I'm just visualizing how the rainfall distribution changes in the country throughout the time period provided. Okay. So if you export each of these layers and put them side by side, you'll be able to learn a great deal of how distribution of rainfall changes over time and which parts receive rainfall throughout the year, which parts you see very dry and extreme rainfalls in them. So that is how to assign a legend. So if you want to, for some reason, just change the legend that you have, you simply go back to the product. Simply just go back to the product. If you want your legend to be viewed horizontally, you simply double click. If it is vertical, it will go to horizontal. If it is horizontal, it will go to vertical. So you simply double click and your legend will change orientation from vertical to horizontal or vice versa, depending on what you feel you want to use. So I'm going to stop this animation so that we have only that for now. All right. So the other aspect is we will still want to learn more about the legend. So to change this legend, I simply click on the data product icon. This automatically opens. And then I can say, you know what, I am interested in this legend. I don't want the other one. So you can have that legend also added in there. So yeah, here. So the next step is what we want to learn. This, in this case, you have your legend, and there's a legend that you've seen here that is really, really very useful. However, you want to modify a little bit about it. So let's say if you see an icon, which is like a pencil next to a legend, it simply means that that legend is editable. Okay. But if it is just an eye, then you can be able to visualize or you can be able to add it. So these ones can be edited. As you can see, they are copies of original legends. And then also if you go to the right part of the legend, assign legend screen, you'll be able to see that the copies can be deleted. So as you can see here, this one can be deleted. This one also can be deleted. Okay, because people just made copies of them and probably modified them. Okay, so also you, for example, I'll just make a copy of a legend and then modify it. So I need to go to, I'll work with the file legend here for rainfall. So I click on it and I first copy the legend. So it's going to generate a copy of that legend. So if I come here and I look for file, so this is the legend that has been copied. So I can click on it and then I can change the name to, let's say, Dash Thomas, to know that, so that I know that this is my legend. Now, the minimum and the maximum value is something that you can play around with, but you need to know what you're doing. What do you mean by maximum of 1? What do you mean by rather minimum of 1? And what do you mean by maximum of 1? And then you can type this. So you can say rain. For example, me, I want to say rainfall. Space millimeters. Okay, so that has changed. Now, depending on if I'm comfortable with the minimum and the maximum of my rainfall, then I can work with that. But what if I want to modify these classes? And let's say I want from something that is a bit different. So I click on this. When I click on each class, it's basically adding classes. So you can also click on this to delete the classes. And then you can add classes step by step. But this might not be a very useful way of doing it unless you really know what you're doing. So normally what I do is I use the generate. So the generate, I ask myself, how many classes do I want? So I want, let's say, 20 classes. I want 20 classes. I want it to start from 100 millimeters of rainfall to 1000 millimeters of rainfall. Then I select the minimum color. So the minimum color of rainfall when it's really, really low, rainfall is within the blue areas here. So something lighter, maybe that color. And then something darker will be a lot of rainfall in this case, according to me. So then I click on generate. So it's going to generate a list of colors from within that range. And also I could specify the labels for it, but sometimes it's really, really very, you have 20, so you can give the names or the labels for each of these, which sometimes can be really, really user friendly and very useful. So for example, here under the preview, I have right now my classes, the labels are displayed the labels are being displayed as numbers. So maybe here I can say low or dry. And then here I'm just going to skip that low. So I can decide to remove this and remove that. And then I put here fairly low. And then I remove that. And then I put maybe moderate. Then moderately high. And I come here and I put high. Okay. When you're generating very, I would call professional products, you need to prepare very well and so that you know exactly what you're doing. Okay. So when I click on save, now I have my legend called file Thomas, whatever, available. So now when I refresh, it's refreshing and it's adding a legend that belongs to me. So where is that legend? So this is the legend that I have just created. Okay, so I can then use it. So assign a legend. I come here. I look for my legend that I've just created. So I didn't create it from scratch. I got what is already there and I modified it to suit what I wanted. When I click on add, then I have the legend that I've just created. No, I didn't click on the button, sorry. I need to click on its button. Where are you, Thomas? It's right here. So I click on that button, then I click on add. So this is my beautiful legend that I've created. And as you can see, the naming is more communicative compared to the numbers that was just existing. So I can change the product date and I'll probably have something a little more different. So you should know what you're doing as you're picking the particular type of a legend, because it will portray the information based on what you're trying to do. But also you'll see that it's more communicative compared to the legends that come by default from the system. Right, so that's about the legends. Right. All right, so we have worked with the legends. We've learned how to assign a legend to a product, and also, so we learned how to assign a legend to a product. We have copied an existing legend and tried to modify it and edit it and so forth. We've also, in that process, learned how to create a legend and be able to change a couple of things here and there. Also, we did some bit of assigning new classes and how you can generate the classes instead of assigning step by step. And also we learned how to do the logarithmic value changes to the legend and all that. So we covered in depth how to work with legends and basically that. So the next step is to basically work with the layers. So you're going to observe that within the eStation application, the GMES eStation application, we have the vector layers. And these vector layers are the ones that we are going to be looking at how to deal with them. So also protected areas, as I mentioned earlier, delineation of the vector. They basically, the boundaries of the protected areas are represented in terms of these vector layers within the eStation. So we'll learn, first of all, we'll view the layers that have been defined by the Joint Research Center, the JRC. And then also we will be able to edit the layers that we will create or be able to generate new layers and edit it within the eStation application. We shall also learn, of course, how to create a completely new layer, which you generate from, let's say, the QGIS software, and you upload it into the list of layers, which you can then use for analysis on a later stage. So let's go into that process of generating or working with layers within the eStation. Now, we have two eStations, as you can probably see, that have opened here. I have the one that is locally hosted within the system, within my PC or my computer. And then also we have the one that is opened from the online eStation platform. Now, because the one that is hosted online, there are some challenges with uploading layers, because the one, if you have registered, or let me just log in, because it's being hosted online, you don't have a lot of credentials to be able to manipulate the content of the system. So you will see that there are certain things that may not work when you're trying to upload your layers into. So I'm simply going to log in into the system. So like I was still telling you before the internet interrupted me, that you can have a challenge manipulating the system because it's not hosted locally within your institution. So the credentials that you have may not allow you to manipulate the system as you probably want to. So if you're trying to upload a layer using the online platform, you might fall into an error, or you'll not be able to see something uploading completely. So you want to be able to see your upload, but you'll find that when you're using the offline or the locally host eStation, then you can be able to upload your own layer and you can be able to use it. So those are some of the challenges that we are going to be having, especially for those who want to upload their own layers into the online platform. So to work with layers, in your eStation, you need to locate the layer tab or the layer button right there. And then when you locate that layer button, when you click on it, first, you'll be able to appreciate all the layers that are available within the system for you to be able to work with. And for example, you'll be able to view all the layers that are listed or within the system. And quickly, what you should look at is that if you have a layer with a pencil next to it and a delete button, that means that layer is a custom layer. It's not the one that came default within the system. So all these layers, the Tunisia layer, the Vajay marine layer, and all these other layers, these are layers that have been edited within the system. So we want to see how do you do that to generate something that is completely custom made layer within the system. So the first approach is you first locate the layer that is here, and then you can customize it to your benefit or for you to use or to have it with your name in there. So let's do that. So first, I'm going to work with the Africa, or rather the East Africa layer. So this East Africa area layer is the one that is the borders for East African countries. So I can first visualize this layer before starting to manipulate it. So to look at it, I click on the map. Just expanding this a bit so that we can be able to see. So to access all these layers that are in the system, you simply click here. Now they have been splitted into or grouped into categories. So the one that I want is the border layer. And remember, when you're adding your layers, you can decide to add it in the group of the border layers, the marine layers, and the other layer. And if you click here, you'll see the layer menu. You can have borders layer, you can have the marine layers here. You can have also the other layers. So depending on where you want to save your layers in. So to add this layer, simply click to border layers and I go to EU Africa, East Africa, and then I pick on this layer. I give it a few minutes for it to load. Just click on that arrow so that I can expand my working area. It's taking a bit of time to load. I wonder whether the system is busy. Let me just do it again, East, and then uncheck, and maybe check again, just to confirm. Yeah, it's checked. Maybe if that one is not coming, I can uncheck it and pick another layer. Let me work with Africa layer. Maybe this will load quickly. Okay. So I have this layer and this is Africa layer level. If I come here to check on it, you'll see that this Africa layer basically showing the continental area. Okay. So I want to make a duplicate and customize this layer to have my own name and all that. So what I do is I click on layers and then I come here and I look for Africa layer. So it's the one here, Africa area layer. So it's this one. Remember, there was one of level 0, level 1, and level 2, but I just want the one without any name, any level, just Africa area. So what do? I go to add a layer and I say Africa continent, boundary, okay? That's the name of the layer. I'm going to give it the same as a description, but now without the underscore. And then this time I click to add the layer that I want to customize. So it's Africa. So I come here, it's Africa without 0, level 0, 1, and 2. So it will be the 0, 0, 1. So it's that one. And I select the GeoJSON file. I don't know much about this layer because this layer is not hosted within my computer, so I may not know much. So I cannot manipulate the feature attribute display. Okay, so I leave it there. And then under the menu, remember you can put it under the border, you can put it under the marine or other layers. So in this case, I'll just put it under the borders. And I can specify the submenu or the provider. So the provider, I'll just say file. So these are file GAL data. So global administrative boundaries. So if I just look at the file GAL here, now, so we have the global administrative unit layers that are normally distributed by Food and Agricultural Organization. So these administrative layers, they come as one of 1991. They work with the country agencies that are directly involved in delineating administrative boundaries. So the one we're going to be working with is the updated one of 2015. So it's the one that we shall be using to work with. So the eStation here, so I put it found. And of course, the layer type is a polygon, it's not a point, and so forth. So I make it active. I don't want it to automatically open in a new map view, so I just leave it there. And all I do is, if I like the colors here, or I don't like them, I can click on the drop down to change the highlighted color, the outline color, and all this. So let me just change this outline color to maybe green in this case. And I say, okay. So instead of the black color now, it is green and so forth. So I can use that, or I can also manipulate the outline width to maybe 3. It seems like I can't see. Yeah, so 3, or can leave it at 2, depending on what I want. So I click on save. So here, you'll see that I have Africa continent boundary layer open, and it's within the border layer menu. So that is how you can create a layer using already available layers in the system. So maybe you want to customize it and not leave it under the border layer, or you want to put it under the others, or you've created your own directory or folder within the eStation platform, and you want to compile all these layers and probably share with somebody at a later stage. If you don't like it, you can click and modify a few things here. So for example, the sub menu, I could just put continental just to edit my layer, and then I click on save. So now I have the sub menu information here available. So of course, all these, the layers that you've created, you can always delete them. So if you click on this, you'll be able to delete the layer that you'll have created within the system. Now, the next step is to create or to add a new layer is you can add a layer from scratch. So that's what we're going to do. So first of all, to add a layer from scratch, you need to have your layer in a GeoJSON file, okay? The layer has to be in a GeoJSON file. So I'll first go and download a layer. So in this case, I want to just go to ICPAC GeoPortal. There are other sources where you can be able to pick your layers from. So I'm not saying this is the only location where you can get admin layer or any kind of layer. Remember, they have to be shape files or they have to be vector data. So you come to RCM, to ICPAC GeoPortal, and then you click on Explore Layers. Now, I want to pick a layer of, let's say, Rwanda. So I type Rwanda, and the administrative level boundary that I'm interested in Rwanda is of level 1. So level 1, I'm assuming these are regions that are in Rwanda. So to download the data, I first click on the thumbnail here, or I can click on the name here. So another window opens under the GeoPortal of ICPAC, and then I can click here to download this layer. So when this window of download layer opens, you can either download a JPEG, PNG, and PDF, but also you can download the raw data. So you click on Data tab, and then you click on Export Layer. So you wait for the screen to load this layer, and then you can select the format that you want. So in this case, the GeoJSON format is already here. So you don't have to go through the process of converting and all that. So you click on Export. If the layer is not available in a GeoJSON format, then you can use QGIS to, to save your layer as a GeoJSON. So now here, the layer has been prepared for me, and I can simply click to save it. So the problem with this is that it creates this list of things, which sometimes it's very hard for you to work with. Okay, it's a list of files which is very long, and it may not be useful for our case to work with this kind of file. So go back here, and instead of downloading a shape, instead of downloading this the GeoJSON file, we could decide to simply download a vector file, or rather the shape file. So you click on download layer, and the data, you click on export. This window opens, and then the format, you can come here and select the shape file, and then click on export. So you look down here, if you see a green label saying something has finished preparing successfully, then you can click to download this layer. So I've downloaded this boundary layer. Now I need to create a GeoJSON file from it. So the easiest software to work with, you can work with ArcMap, ArcGIS Pro, but in this case, we're going to work with the QGIS software. So let me give it a few minutes for it to open. In the meantime, I don't need these windows, so I can simply close them up. I'm just waiting for QGIS to open. If it opens, then we start the business. Awesome. So I'll start with a new project. And in my new project, I start by adding this file. So this file is in my downloads. So I go to the browser window of the QGIS. Inside the downloads, I have it in the compress folder, and I know it's this file. So, so it's zipped. QGIS normally open the zip files, but seem like the way ICPAC GeoPortal exports a file is a bit different. So probably I need to first remove anything that is here. And I want to clean my directory a bit. Then I can extract this. So my file is inside here. I extract this. So it's right in here. So what I do is I click on the shape file and then I drag and put it under the layers menu. And I can be able to close this because I don't need it. And then here, what I simply want to do is to export this layer as a GeoJSON file. So when it comes under the format, I leave it at a GeoJSON, or you can click to look for the GeoJSON file, or rather format. Then you click on that. And then I browse where I want to save it. So I probably want to just save it on my desktop. And then I call this render. Render admin. Admin. This is level 1. Level 1. I save. And then I say, okay, I don't change anything, just do that. So I remove it from my menu here. So this is a file. QGIS creates what we call the QMD file from this, but all we need is that first one. So I go to the eStation here, and then I go to layers. I click to add a layer. Sorry, let's go to the online platform one before then I show you what the errors bring if you're trying to use the online one. So I click to browse a file. I know that I put it in my desktop and this is a file. I say, okay, and I click on import. Now, the problem with, like I mentioned in the beginning of the presentation, that when you're trying to add layers into the online platform, your credentials may not allow you to do this. So you might have a challenge uploading your own layer into the system. So as you can see, if I click on close, this layer is supposed to be added here, but it has not been added. And this is a problem when you're trying to upload a layer to the online system. So since I have my locally hosted eStation, I want to show this process using this. So Also, you'll see that in your offline version, you have the logo button, but in the online one, you don't have the logo button. So there are a bit of limitations on when you're using the offline and the online eStation. So here it's a locally hosted eStation. So you can see you have a logo. So I click on layers and you click to add a layer. And what you needed to do would have been to first of all import that GeoJSON file. So I'll give it a name here, Rwanda admin level 1, and I give it a description, Rwanda administrative boundary regional administrative boundary. So this is for the regions. So next, what I need to do is to come here and you click on imported your JSON file. And then you go to the directory where this file is. It's right here. Maybe I can change this to list that you can be able to see it. It must have .geojson at the end. So I click on upload and I click on import. It shouldn't take long. So as you can see, this is giving me a success result. And the reason is because I'm using the locally hosted eStation. If I'm using the online one, it may not accept. So I say, okay. So when I say, okay, you can see that it's added here. Now, what is very important is that you need to specify the feature attribute. So the feature attribute is the one, it's a pop-up message that you get when you click on each of the layer. So this attribute is a column inside the feature or the layer that you'll have added, so that whenever someone clicks on it, they can be able to tell what each boundary implies. So you go back to QGIS and look at this layer, which you created, or rather, then you figure out what the column name that you must use. So it is capital name _1 as the feature attribute that you need to configure. So here you give it name _1. And then here you ask yourself, do you want it to be under the borders or something like that? So maybe under the other layers, and you make it active. If you don't want to make it active, you'll have to make it active at a later stage. You can also change the index. So here it's ICPAC GeoPortal. I know most of us, sometimes we don't want to acknowledge the providers of the data, but it's very important that we keep doing that. Just imagine it's your case, you've worked tirelessly hard to create a product, and people do not acknowledge you. It's not a good thing. So scientifically, it's not a good thing if you don't acknowledge the sources of your products or data. So when I click on add, then I see my layer or the new layer that has been added right here. So I've taken you through the process of creating a new layer. First of all, exploring the available layers inside the eStation application, and then also how to modify a layer that is already available inside the system to make it your own. And then I've taken you through the process of uploading a completely new layer into the eStation application. So if you had not made it active, then you'll have to come and make it active at this point. So when you're done, then you can close this layer, and you'll see that if you go to a new map, you can now start using your layer to do further analysis. So how do you do that? So now remember, you created your layer under the other. So you go to the other, and then you'll be able to see your layer added here. So when you click on it, since I'm using an offline system, you'll be able to see that. Now, remember we added some attribute indexing. So you simply, when you see, I put the cursor, the name that is being displayed here, up here, is the attribute that I specified. So every time I move a cursor from one place to the other, that's what I view. So of course, you can go further, add your product. In my system, I have a few products. I have chaps. So when I add chaps, I say, okay, I just want to have one monthly chaps. And when I add it to the map, I'll be able to see my chaps data added in here. And I can go further and, only pick the chaps or mask only for this particular region in Rwanda, and I can do further analysis. So this is the vector data that I brought from scratch into the eStation application. All right. So the next step, the next segment of our presentation will be to look at working with the graphs within the eStation application. So the maps basically shows the spatial distribution of events within, let's say, a protected area or a country. But now the graph looks at the time series aspect. Basically, it allows you to look at the trend of events of that particular data for a study area or a choice of your location. So we want to see how do you work with the graphs in order to look at the trend or to visualize the time series on how things are changing over time. And in the eStation application or the GMES eStation application, we have 4 types of graphs. We have the profile graph. Now, the profile graph allows you to, as you can see in this presentation, you have 2 data sets. You can have even more than two products. Okay, we have the rainfall product, and then you have the end vegetation product. And some of these products, you can also look at their sub-products, and then you can be able to manipulate or visualize the trend of how events are changing over time. So for profile, you can have more than 2 products in your graph. You can add more than two products into the graph. And then we have also what we call the cumulative graph. Now, the cumulative graph allows you to work with one product at a time. However, in addition to working with one product at a time, you can work with more than one sub-product of that particular product. So what I mean is, if you're looking at rainfall, rainfall is a product in the eStation. Now, the sub-product can be occurrences or the 10-day rainfall events. And then you have the long-term average of the rainfall. So it's a product, but there's 2 sub-products of the rainfall. And it allows you to examine how cumulative events are happening for the long-term mean versus the 10-day occurrences of the data, and we'll see how do you generate that. So also the other graph is the ranking or the Z-score. So this is very important. It allows you to look at the trend in terms of deviation of the data from from the average. So if it rains today, the ranking allows me to see how much the rainfall has deviated from the total mean of a long period of time. So the Z-scores are generated in the ranking graph, and you'll see how that can be done. However, this only applies for one sub-product at a time, so you must pick a sub-product from the main product So one layer is examined or studied at a time. This graph is very important to visualize anomalies of your products. And you will be able to do this and see how that is done. And then we have the matrix. So the matrix graph is normally done. So as you can see, it has the different years on the vertical part of the matrix, and then horizontally you have the month. So you want to visualize how data varies from each year and for each of the months that is this for that particular product. So we'll see that how do we generate that within our application. So let's go into the application now. So today, for this analysis, I'm still going to be working with the online platform, but you can do the same with the offline platform as well. All right, so to create a graph, the first thing you need to know is where do I locate the tab or the button for the graph. So you must go and look for new graph button, and then you can be able to click on it, and then it will bring this window. Now, it's the first part of it asks you to select a region. So for example, now, and at this moment, I don't have a region that I can input here. Now, so how do I add a region? So first you go and you add a map. So as usual, when you're adding a map, you start by selecting a layer. I want to just position this here and make it a little larger. I'll give it a few minutes to load the layer. And then next, you need to add a product, okay? Now, you may, if you're creating a graph, you may want to visualize your graph with a product, but it's not necessary. It's not by default that you must have a product. So what is very important is that in your map, you need to have the layers, the vector layer added, because when you, as you can see, this is empty, but the moment I click on each of these country, it gets added, the selected region gets added here. So you can use this layer, in this case, admin boundaries for each of the countries to select or select the region of interest. Yeah. So now you can see that based on my clicking of the map, the region also get populated. So next, what you need to come down here is to select the graph that you want to generate. So in this case, by default, it's the profile graph that gets open. And I told you that the profile graph allows you to add many products, but also within the product, you can have many sub-products added. So the first thing we need to do is we shall look at so the layer that we want to work with, we could start with, let's say, the vegetation layer. And the vegetation layer that I want to work with for this demo, you can try and use other layers. So I want to work with the 10-day NDVI data. So this is this. So the moment you click on it, down here, it gets added under the selected products. Yeah. So I've added that. That is one sub-product from the vegetation category, or rather a product from a sub-product from the MODIS data. I could also open another sub-product from another product. So let's say I could also add from NDVI. I could also the spot V. I also add another NDVI data. In this case, I just want the vegetation not condition index because that's an anomaly. So I scroll down and I just add the 10-day vegetation filtered product. So it also gets added here. Now, I'll be adding more products as I go. Next is I probably need also the rainfall product. So I come here, I click on the rainfall. I need the chaps, and all I need is the chaps 10-day. And I could also add Tomsat if I want to. So I scroll down. Okay, let me work with FuseNet, and then I can come and look at the FuseNet. These was chaps. I need FuseNet here. So also add FuseNet. So I have that. I could also say, you know what, I want more products. So I could go to the fire product, and also add a 10-day fire event here. So now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sub-products that I want to visualize on the graph. So here you can now specify the period. So I want to pick 2023. Let's first start with the 2020 and scroll down up to 2000. 2000 may not be the best because MODI starts from around 2002. So let's do the 2002 as my selected time frame. So when I'm finished specifying the time frame, I have confirmed my products are here. I can simply come here and click on Get Time Series. So here is where my time series is being loaded. So let's give it a couple of minutes for it to load. I could just stretch this a bit so that I have enough space. I'm just using it to select the regions. So yeah. So that is the time series that has been added for my visualization. Now, when you look at this time series, all the rainfall are in blue. So chaps, their products and FuseNet products are all in blue bars, and they're right there. And then we have the fire data. This is appearing in black. And then we have the vegetation data. This is appearing in a couple of colors. Others are available, others are not. For example, I don't have the MODIS 10-day D. So probably I may not need that product. So I don't need this. So I click on this to uncheck it, and then go to MODIS. I need to go to MODIS, to vegetation here. And then I go to the subproduct of MODIS, and I pick of MODIS NDVI. I pick the 10-day, not the 10-day D. So 10-day D might not be having data. So I update my graph. As usual, it will going to open another graph here. So I wait for it to load. It's kind of taking a bit of time, but it's right there. So we have these products just like I explained earlier. We have the fire products. This time they have turned into bars, which may not be something that I need. I might change them into a line, and I'm going to show you how you can modify the content of your graph. So first, I want to modify my graph. So I come here, edit the graph properties icon. And the first thing I want to do is, as you can see, my verticals are all in one side. That sometimes is not the best. So what I want to do is I want to go and switch them. So I need to scroll down and start looking at things step by step. So here under the x-axis one ID, I have the fires, okay? Rather the y-axis ID, I have the fires, and the title is active fires. Now, the y-axis one, it is false. So it means it's going to be default. What I mean is the y-axis for the fires is on the left and it's false. So if I say true, it's going to jump to the right-hand part. So I come here, I click on false, and then it allows me to select true. So the moment I select true and press enter, now you see that it has jumped to the right, as you can see. So it has jumped onto the right-hand side. So probably I also want NDVI because they're all having, as you can see, the scale for fire occurrences, it's not in values of NDVI. So maybe I need to leave it this side and then change a couple of things. But also, yeah, so I need to leave it under false. What I want to do is to take the NDVI on the right. So NDVI is in y-axis 2. So as you can scroll down here, you'll see that it's the false. So I want it to be true so that it jumps the side because the scale is very different. So when I take my NDVI that side, I can now say, okay, now that I have those there, I could also try to reduce the legends sizes because the legend fonts are a bit larger. So the legend font size is 14. Maybe I can put it in 12. So what I mean is this couple of things down here. These are the legends. So the font is 14. Maybe I can try and put it at 12 or even 11. So you can see now they've reduced a bit. So my graph looks a bit neater. Okay. Now, the other thing that you can work with is that you see the fire data, it's in black, and probably I don't like the black. So here you'll see that the fire, the color, it's that brown, but the axis, okay. So we see that it's in black. So what do? We can change those properties here. You go and click on products. And when you click on products, you'll have this menu on this other section, which can allow you to change if you want it to be a line, for example. So I scroll, I look for fire. So where are you? Where are you? Rainfall. The fire is here. So I click on this icon to edit my chart. And then the first thing is a chart type, it's a column. So I change it to be a line. And then the line style, it's solid. And then the color is here. So the color, I want it to be red. So I click on that drop down and then I pick a red color and I say, okay. So when I'm done, I just close this. And when I close that, okay, I needed to say enter. most probably. Where is modifier? It's right here. So when the color is okay. And there should be a section which allows me to update. So that's what I just forgot to do. So I need to click here to update my time series chart. So it will take a couple of minutes for it to get done. But as it is loading, I can be explaining something else. So as you can see now, my fire data is also in a line, and my rainfall data is in the columns or the bar chart. And then the others are arranged differently. Now I see that this has changed. So I scroll here under NDVI and I make it NDVI, I had made it false. Now it turned true. Okay, so you simply redo it and then it will go back to the right position as you wanted. So this is the fire for 2000. And so this one here, you can also be able to click on the product from the legend to turn it off and on so that you can be able to examine which product is that. So this is 2022 fire product, and this is 2000 fire product. So you can turn it on and off so that you can be able to examine each line or each segment step by step so that you can understand. You can also probably just want to turn it off. So you click on it and you turn it off so that your graph might look a little bit, if it is too congested and you want to just export step by step. Now on the graph, we have learned how to manipulate the products to make them lines or columns. If I don't like the rainfall, I can also make the rainfall to be in line. So simply I click on that and close that. And then also FuseNet, I make it in a line. And I update. So it will take a couple of minutes, but as it's loading, I can explain something that also within your chart, you can be able to show or hide the disclaimer and the logos if you want to have those in your chart. You can also link the region here in the map with what is in the chart. So you can keep doing that, or you can also refresh your graph using this icon here. So as you can see, we changed the rainfall from the columns into lines. So as you put a cursor onto each of these, but you can see that each of them has its own line. So if you put a cursor here, you'll be able to study it. You'll be able to study that line and also that particular line. So sometimes when you're making charts, of course, it's important that others can be in a line, others can be in a column, because it makes maybe the graph more informative than making everything to be in a line. So if you want to link your region of interest with the charts that are being generated so that you can analyze each country step by step. So right now we have the United Republic of Tanzania. So in case I want to look at this country, which is Chad, I simply click on Chad. And then the product for Chad gets loaded and the graph also gets displayed for Chad. Let's give it a few minutes for it to load. Okay, so I hope you're enjoying the presentation so far. And yeah, so that has loaded. Maybe I want to just change these things back to column. So I simply click on product and I look for rainfall. And instead of line, I change it to a column. And also FuseNet, I change it into a column. So those, and then, yeah, so those two. So look for, yes, I have two rainfall products. Then I update my graph. So this is a cloud computing environment. You can imagine you're running analysis of a certain place using the data which is already hosted in the cloud. So you're not having it in your computer, and you're basically using a platform or a cloud resource to run the analysis using the Earth observation data. So that is that country. You can also select this length also, and then you can generate the chart for length also. So we have been working with the profile graph type, and as you can see, it's very, very effective because it allows you to integrate a number of products and sub-products together so that you can visualize them all in one graph. So we'll move to another type of graph, and I'll simply just close this for clarity. I'll leave my map open, and I want to go to cumulative graph. Now, cumulative graph allows you to monitor one product, but also for that particular product, you can monitor a maximum of two products, sub-products rather. So in this case, let me start working with, let's say, NDVI. So I can work with the Spot V NDVI products. And what I can do is I can look at the 10-day NDVI data, and then I go with a 10-day LTA. So LTA is, so I just need also the filtered, not the VC. So then LTA is the long-term average. So then I select the two products. Now here I can come and so I click on the year and then I can select which year I want to compare the long-term mean with. All right. So now there are so many available years that you can select from. So let's say I want to monitor 2010 against the long-term period. So one is you need to select the reference and occurrence. So the reference data is the long-term average. And then the occurrence is the particular year that you want to focus on, which in this case is 2010. So when I finish, I go to get time series. So the graph is loading. And remember the region that I've selected here is Lesotho. So here is the graph. So this graph is simply showing me that, as you can see here, what is in red shows that that particular year is less than the long-term mean. And then what is in green is saying that that particular year, the NDVI value is greater than the long-term mean. So we see a bit, most areas, as you can see, has a green color. So that particular year, the NDVI is greater than the long-term mean. So we could try another country. Let's try Burundi. So when I try Burundi, I can refresh my graph. And Burundi is also having similar thing. Let me just check something. Maybe check on my presentation. I could have, so here we see the 10 days occurrence and then the LTA. Yes, perfect, that's it. So we could check on Burundi, but also we can check on Uganda. Maybe let's do DRC. So DRC, then I can refresh my graph to portray DRC. Why am I having that also? It's because I've not selected this, sorry. So I need to link my graph with my map. So let it load for DRC. DRC is a bit a large country, so it will take some bit of time. Remember, it's looking at the long-term mean, which is, in this case, is from 2009. As you probably see here, the initial year starts from 1999 up to 2024. So it's calculating the long-term average of this particular year, which is the LTA, and then it's comparing it with the 2010. So I could also, now that I've done that, so you'll see that most of the things for the vegetation for 2010 was really good. So maybe let me try 2019 and see what happens. I may not get something new. All I need to do is to, when you change components here, you need to simply click on get time series so that it can generate for you a completely fresh new graph for you to visualize. So let's look at what happens in 1999. So we are comparing 1999 with the long-term mean, as you can see here. The product here, we're saying the reference product is a long-term average, and then the occurrence is that particular NDVI for that particular year of that. So as you can see for DRC, the occurrence is less than the reference in 1999. But if you change maybe in 2020 and you get time series for DRC, do we still see the similar pattern? Let's watch and see. So that is, I'm comparing it for the whole year, but also you can you can look at how it varies for a particular seasonal period. But seasonalities, I normally like using the matrix because then it's more informative. So here, what you can see is that the areas in green, as usual, is whereby in that particular year, the NDVI value was greater than the average for that year. So the average in this case is the long-term average from 1999 up to 2024. But in this area, the occurrence is less. So that means in DRC in 2020, okay, from the month of January up to probably the month of, which month is this? June, 11th June, NDVI value was greater than the long-term mean. But then from this period up to December, things changed, okay? The values completely changed, whereby the long-term mean was really, really higher than the what? Much higher than the NDVI values for that particular year. So this is how you interpret this kind of graph. This is how you can work with it to be able to analyze that. So you want to compare what the events of that year with the long-term average. You can also do this for vegetation condition index, which is an anomaly product that you can use to monitor the condition of the vegetation. Okay. All right. Next, what we want to work with is the ranking. So for the ranking is normally used for anomaly kind of data. So I'm going to close this. And for anomaly, I'm going to uncheck this. I first click on ranking. So the ranking is going to ask me which kind of data set do you want to look at. So first, I'm going to look at rainfall product. And in the rainfall product, I want to go to CHAPS source. And remember, I told you that it looks at anomaly kind of data. So first, I want to compare SPI with normal difference to LTA, which is this one. So the difference from LTA, so that's an anomaly data. And then that's for one chart. So it looks at one graph at a time. You can't, you may combine, but it doesn't, we'll try both and see which one is best. And normally I use it for only one product, one sub-product at a time. So here I want to pick, let me first start with the year 2022. And then normally having your products one at a time is much better. Please select more than 1 year to rank. Okay, so let's just pick for all available years and then click on Get Time Series. So for the ranking, it doesn't work for only 1 year. So it's trying to compare data for different years. Yeah, so you need to select more years in this case. Well, let's leave it to load. I picked so many years, so maybe this is not, it's going to take a lot of time. So let's just pick a couple of years. Go to 2010 and 2011, and then 2000 and 2001. Maybe that's a bit workable. Doesn't go too much far down. So that's a rank. So areas that are in orange, as you can see, that's a rank. So you see that in 2001 and 2010, this is up to 2003. This is what we are seeing. So we are looking at the deviation from the average of the relative differences. Now, we could say, okay, that's our rank, but what if we look at the Z-score? What happened? So I can just, I don't know if I refresh, it will still do the same, or I need to completely, so that this is before checking the Z-score box. So let's get another chart. Let's get another time series and put it below here so that we compare how each of these look like. So with the Z-score, what you're trying to see is that for 2000 now, things have changed a little bit. So it's looking at the scale has also changed. So start from negative to +2. So it looks at this rainfall anomaly without, so this is looking at it in millimeters, anomaly in millimeters, but this is looking at it within the range of -1 to 4. That is for that is for what? So I'll just change the region a bit, maybe to Let's go to West Africa. This time I go to Mauritania. And then in Mauritania, I want to look at the rainfall. So I go to rainfall product and I select SPI. Where is SPI under chaps? Out here. I expected to see SPI, which is here. Okay. So SPI, yeah. So I want the 1 month SPI data. And then I say get that. It needs me to select the years. Okay. I thought I'd already selected. Okay. So just a couple of years that I've picked there. So I want to look at the rank of this. So this is going to be before checking the box of the Z-score. So the Z-score is just around here. So there it looks at the rank of that period before actually checking on the Z-score. So if I check on the Z-score and get another chart for Mauritania. So that's what I get. So here it's more clearer because it shows you that the rainfall or the SPI between this period was less for these periods. So these areas were dry during this period, but they were wet during these particular years, as you can probably see. That is for the SPI because you need to know what SPI data really implies and what does it work. So that is that. Now, one thing that I forgot to show you is that you can export your chart. So you can simply click here and then you can have your chart exported rather here. And then you can put this in your Word document. Also, if you don't like it, you can click on the Excel export. Then you can export your data in Excel. And then you can use it for modeling or to do anything that you feel like you want to use the data for. So simply you have your data here, and then you can maybe generate your own chart here. So insert a chart, because this is, I need to enable, it's a protected view. So I select my data, then I can insert a chart. I want a recommended chart, and then it could be just this, or it could be any other chart that you feel you need to use for this kind of analysis. So here, then you can modify the values that are down should be in red. You can click on each of them and change the colors and achieve something that is similar to what is being displayed in the eStation here. So depends how you want your things to be. As usual, you can modify your chart based on how you want things to appear. Okay, can modify the colors and all that. All right, so that is about the ranking. As usual, can turn on the logos if you want to, and other aspects if you want to do that. Okay, you can also link this so that every time you click on a different area of interest, let's look at South Sudan. If you click on the different area of interest, the graph updates based on that region that you will have selected. All right, so next is we will need to work with the matrix. So the matrix allows you also to analyze one product at a time, but it tries to compare the annual data versus the monthly data so that you can look at the seasonalities of your data. So how do you do that? You simply come to matrix, and then you pick a product. In this case, I want to just look at the fires. So I want to see if fires vary in particular month on the time. So here I want to have 10 days fire product, and I want to pick maybe for certain, I can't pick for all the years because there are only a couple of years. Remember, this is a modest product. When I click on get time series, it's going to load for me a graph, a matrix graph, which shows how fire occurrences vary for different years, but also during each of the years. Let's wait and see what happens. Okay, so this is nice. So you'll see that for Sudan, for South Sudan, the fire events are normally for all the years between this period. So it's between around June, mid-June up to mid-September. But what happens in Malawi? So I need to check on that so that I can update my graph to Malawi. So what happens in Malawi? Does the fire events happening during the same period of time or a little bit different? Okay, so for Malawi, it's a little bit different. The fire event starts from December and it goes up to the month of May. Okay, so between May or mid-May up to mid-November, we don't see a lot of fire events. Let's see which country. Let me go to Morocco. Okay, it's taking a bit of time. Maybe the internet connection is poor. So this is the challenge that you'll always get, especially when you're working with the online platform, that you need to rely on internet connection. So yes, yeah. So for Morocco, it's really very interesting. I think fire appears or occurs to at any time during the year, and this is very interesting. If you look at East African countries and maybe the southern countries, things are a bit different. But if you focus on this, you'll see that the variation is really very interesting. And you'll see, however, you'll see that the darker areas and the blue areas are also there for different years, but the darker regions start from May. So the intensity of fire occurrences is very much common in throughout the year, throughout the period that I am analyzing. As you can see, I'm looking at data from 2002 up to 2024. So throughout all this period, fire is just random and it occurs intensively between starting from the month of mid-May and coming up to this month, mid-October. It's more intensive, yet also for some years, for example, in 2006, from 1st August up to 2006, September, there was no event of fire. Then there was a very intensive one here, which then later came succeeded with no fire events here. So these are really, really very interesting graphs to see how different countries' events vary. And this is the power of cloud computing. There's a power of working with the eStation application that you can monitor almost everywhere using the same approach, using the same data at a go from your analysis window. So beautiful. That's really, really awesome. And yeah, so you can click on each of these products either to remove them from the display and focus on a few. Just click on the legend, as you can see, as I'm doing, to be able to turn them off, and you can examine your data step by step. For example, I want to only pick the intensive periods. So we have 7, and as you can see, the data gets so the areas that we're seeing that are in blue, in this case, is a no data value. So there are no data sets there. But the areas that are in dark are of value 7. So that's intensive fire occurrences in that particular area. Beautiful. So that is about the working with graphs, and we looked at the 4 types of graphs in details, and that really brings us to the end of our presentation. I've showed you that you can always configure, change a couple of things from your graph, modify the logos and all that. You can modify the different logos that are available in the system. If you want to upload a logo for your institution, that can only apply when you're using the offline version of the eStation. What I mean is something that is hosted in your system. So that's that, and thank you so much for listening, but also thank you so much for being attentive for this training. This was the day 4 training. Of course, tomorrow we have more other contents to cover as far as the training is concerned. So stay hooked, because we are really looking at the time series analysis within the eStation, the spatial temporal analysis of our protected areas. As you can see that here, we are working with the admin boundaries, but we could also change to the protected areas. So here, I simply come here. Let me first uncheck this this data, and then I load the admin boundaries. So I have the natural habitats data here, so I can load it. I need to check what I've loaded. So here, natural habitats. I'm only seeing one file. So I probably need to refresh my window. So Morocco is still checked because it's part of the the graph. So let me add the natural habitats data here. So the natural habitats data is loaded, so I can now select it as a region. Okay, so I want to pick just one of the protected areas here in so this is south. There are quite a number of protected areas here, so I can just pick one here. ZMB, Musalangu. So Musalangu should be in the Congo area. Could be, absolutely. Yeah, within the Greater Virunga areas there. So you can always monitor the different protected areas as I've showed you, and as you can see, things really appear different for each of these protected areas for each of the countries that we have in Africa. In Morocco up here, you'll see that the events are very, very different. So for example, if I pick that small one, So it's really a very interesting fire events in some of these reserves. All right, so thank you so much. And I really thank you for being resilient for today. And I appreciate all the questions that we received on the chat and so many things, and the fact that we are able to respond to them. All right, bye and see you tomorrow in the next presentation, the last day of the Friday. Okay.